Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer, and right over there is the resident millennial, John. Um, John is coming at us with his activist angle, camera angle, from
Right.
some other location. John, you're live on the scene somewhere, apparently.
I am live on the scene. Yeah,
Yeah.
currently.
Can you
Um,
can you tell us what's going on?
uh,
Oh,
Nothing.
shut the front door. Henry is here in the chat
Oh,
and
yeah.
is actually first.
Wait, wait. No, he's always
He's
first.
always first, but this time he is, even he himself is saying he is
Like,
actual first.
he's even more first than usual.
I he I am going to screenshot that. Hold on.
Do it.
All right,
Oh
that
my
has been
God.
screenshotted.
That
I've
is
got
Gen
that.
Gap history right there.
That is
Me.
Now, that's not to say that there's not other people there. It's not that you're the only person there, but you probably are. Please, oh, Brown Boy Dante has shown up. Please click the
Yep.
like button while you're there, if you don't mind. I
Yep.
meant to click it before I started up, but I didn't. So if you guys could hit it for me, each one of you, is great. Make
Yeah.
sure it's done properly. The like button is important. John, why are you coming to us remote? Is there some supercilious reason?
No.
I
No,
don't,
there's
I don't
not.
know if that was the appropriate word, but I really
I
like the
think
way it sounded there.
it
I
did
mean, it
sound,
just, it
it
just,
sounded like it was real.
it just came out, right? It was just like
Actually
I was
made me
like,
think, like, wait, is there, like, do I not know what that word is? Like, that sounds like a real word. It did sound real, yeah.
it is a real supercilious. Yes, that's a,
Oh, super. Okay, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's a real
Well,
word. But the
for those
exact,
who don't know, what does that mean?
that
Just in case
is,
there's somebody out there in the chat who doesn't know, you know.
I mean, there's a good chance I am not 100% sure, but I know a guy
I
who
just guess
does
what you're
know.
talking about in context.
Yeah, behaving or acting as one is superior, i.e., the camera angle. That's why it popped into my head.
Yes, yeah.
Right,
I
you're
do have a superior camera angle. You have to look up at me in order
right,
to see me.
right.
You're all below me.
Yeah. It's a very intimidating camera angle.
Yes, that's the thing.
It's like I said off mic. It's every time I see it, I expect to hear something about Black Lives Matter. It's, Uh, see, Henry always hits the like. He was the first one to like, which
Oh,
is important.
man.
He always does that. I see Sergeant Peterson
Oh,
over on D Live asking what's up, ladies? Sending much love. Good to see you tonight. It's ooh, John. It's been an interesting week.
yeah.
I'm just saying it right now. Just FYI, one thing I want to touch on is going on, and I'm wondering if Ed will show up tonight. Maybe he'll have some insight since he's close to it. There's been an active shooter incident up in Wauwatosa, uh, Wisconsin, at the Mayfair Mall. Apparently, upwards of 8 people, 7 adults and one teen, were shot. But as of this time, no one's been reported dead. They were injured. No medical examiner had been called to the scene. At most of the reporting last updates were slightly before the 7 o'clock hour Eastern time. Um,
The
but
only true time zone, of course.
do I? They're the only true
Yeah,
time zone.
yeah, right, right.
But apparently he's still on the loose. I don't know. It's very confusing as far as the pertinent information, such as are people still locked down in the mall because, of course, people went into their safety protocols and their safe
Yeah.
spaces, that kind of thing. But no shooter has been apparently a white male, 20s to 30s, but no one's been apprehended. He's on the loose as it stands right now. But no active reports from eyewitnesses, only people who heard shots and got out. I guess one woman had contact with someone who was still inside in their safe place, locked down in their store, saying that no one had come for them yet, but they were still in there. But these have been, again, the time on the reports are scattered at best to know when things have happened. It's all unfolding. But
It sounds
also,
like you're saying is that we're back to normal now, which is nice.
no,
You
no,
know,
no, no. This is
back to normal.
there's a pattern. This has been going on in Wisconsin. This is like the fourth active shooter event since in very recent history, just the last few months or something. It's this is
Something about Wisconsin.
going back to Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, that was what, like a month ago, 2 months ago, a month ago? No, 2 months ago, right? Something like that.
About 2 months ago, I think is what it was.
Yeah,
Um,
it was that.
uh, Henry says he hopes the shooter was wearing a mask. Uh,
Yeah,
um,
when he's spreading the virus around while you're killing
right.
people.
This is a great time to go incognito mode, right?
Yeah,
But
because I saw recently. I saw it today, but there was apparently a memo that was going around like intelligence agencies that like people wearing a mask is actually fucking with the police like facial recognition software.
right, right.
So, I thought that was pretty funny.
And that the funny thing is that kind of touches on something we're going to talk about a little bit later in the show. I've got something that I want to talk about involving the virus, but that's some excellent reasoning behind why I'm going to continue to wear a mask.
I
It's like,
was actually kind of swayed by that. I was like, maybe that's not
right,
so bad.
right. I'm going to go ahead and say there's a certain comfort in going unnoticed, incognito,
Yeah.
in public these days. But
Well,
no,
after that, it's gonna be all of a sudden we're gonna hear, "Oh, masks don't work. You can't wear a mask. In fact, don't wear a mask. If you wear a mask, you're killing people." Like somehow that'll be the thing because of that.
yeah. Henry
Like,
says,
I'm like, we gotta use our software. Thanks.
right. Henry says, what other time can you remember being able to walk into a bank with a mask? Hell, they
For
don't even
real.
want you wearing sunglasses in there normally.
Yeah. And then now they're like, you have to wear a mask to come in.
I know that like PNC Bank, I've been with them for a ton of time, for a long time. I love them as a bank. I'm just going to say it. PNC Bank treats me right. I've never had issues with them, and they've always been great to me. But they got to a point where it was like they had it posted on the door: no hats, no sunglasses, no anything that covers anything on your face. It's
Yeah, that's
like,
not exactly like a mainstream bank. That's a pretty neighborhood ass bank. You know what I mean? Like
right. Uh,
you don't find those in a lot of places.
yeah. But now in Wisconsin as well, speaking of Kyle Rittenhouse, he was released today on $2 million bail. Now he's facing homicide charges for two, potentially three people, and they had described him earlier as a flight risk and why the bail was set so high, but he's made bail and out now. So I guess it
Why would
remains
he
to be
be a
seen
flight
if
risk?
do I.
Oh, that's so fucked. That he was considered a flight risk. Like when he's the one who tried to turn himself into the police. As soon as the incident happened, he turned himself in. They were like, "Nah, you can't turn yourself in for whatever fucking reason." And then he went home and turned himself in the next day. Like I don't understand
Big,
why he's a
big,
flight risk. He's obviously trying to do the
right.
right thing.
But I mean, because they are going to consider anyone a flight risk that is facing life in prison.
Yeah, all right, I
I mean,
guess,
he
yeah,
faces maximum sentencing on this. So,
yeah.
just FYI, Brown Boy Dante said, just want to take a second and say the way you guys do this cast is awesome AF. I hope you guys grow
Oh,
tremendously. And that's some awesome stuff. Thanks a
thank you,
lot.
man. Appreciate it.
It's good to hear. Good to hear. And then there's Midget. Fuck facial recognition. That's old shit. Now it's stout gait about gait recognition and skeletal recognition,
Oh my
right?
god.
Yeah, they've started
Yeah, it's probably
incorporating
done.
the scanners into the cameras now out there in the world.
Yeah, it's like the ones at the airport where you gotta like put your hands up above your head and they scan your whole body and you just see your little dick, you know?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Henry says YouTube won't let us grow. There's too much freedom in these sessions.
That's true. That's fair.
Yeah, there's yeah, maybe that's a thing. It's funny, I, I, I was thinking about that very thing whenever I was keywording this episode, and I was like, what do I want to put in there? I don't want to draw too much attention, especially the audio clip I'm going to be playing later is like, it's one of those things where, because of all the conspiracy theory bullshit and the way everybody's stepping on, like talking about things that are taboo, now everything gets to be filtered
Oh,
through the taboo filter. Don't talk
speaking
about this
of,
and that.
speaking of, I was gonna say, well, we're not monetized, so it's not a big deal as much for that. As far as YouTube goes, I don't really care if you're not monetized. But speaking of that, YouTube is implementing a new system where they're going to monetize your videos anyway, even if you're not monetized. They're going to still run ads in front of it and take that money for themselves. So my question is, yeah, I know it's fucked, dude. It's so fucked.
Whoa, whoa,
But my
whoa.
question is though, anyone from the chat, did you see an ad before the video played
Yeah, did
from the
anybody
screen?
see an ad tonight?
I don't
Um,
know when it starts. I don't know if it starts now, if it starts the first of the year or what. I don't know. But yeah, that's the thing. Well, we got an email. I read the email
but we,
that was
we
telling us that, yeah, fuck you. We're going to monetize your work, your content.
all right. So Brown Boy
And you made
Dante
the
says
shit
he
of it.
had no ad on YouTube.
No ad. Okay. Yeah, I don't, it probably starts on like the first of the year or something like that. But
Henry did not
still.
either, but he also has YouTube Red. So
Yeah, so do I. That's why I would have no idea.
yeah, yeah. I don't know, but there's something sketchy with turning on anything to do with ads. We still don't get anything from it until we hit 1,000 subscribers anyway, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah. So they'll put ads in front of our video, but
That's effed
we
up.
won't see anything until we join the YouTube partnership thing that they like to call it. Even though it's not really a partnership, it's just we'll give you some fucking crumbs.
Yeah, that's one of those things. It's like they'll take the money where they can, and they're not going to parcel it out if they don't have to.
Right, exactly. And
Right.
they're like, "Oh, we can just fuck them anyway. I mean, they're
Right.
small. Like, fuck them. Like,
Yeah.
what are you
Yeah.
gonna
So we got to drive. We
do?"
got to drive more people to our subscribe star. Get to our subscribe star. Uh,
Yes. If
generational
you
gap on
enjoy it.
subscribe star. We'll have a movie night.
Oh yeah, we have three perks. One of them is a movie night. One of them is a special weekly episode that is just for Subscribe Star people. And then what was the other one we had?
Something. Some.
Check out our Subscribe Star link
We'll take
down
your mom
below.
out to dinner. I think it was something like take their mom
Something
out to
like that.
dinner.
Yeah. I mean, I would do that anyway, especially if she's paying.
Well, just the idea we're taking them out to dinner, that infers that we're paying. Duh.
Oh,
God.
that we're paying? I didn't
Yeah,
kind
but
of. We'll have to renegotiate this contract later on off the air.
uh, yeah. So anyway, subscribe star because YouTube doesn't want us to have money.
Right.
Um, no, it's our own fault. We need to make ourselves more popular.
Even
Um,
if we did reach 1,000 subscribers, I still don't want to.
we need to be
Uh,
more controversial, John.
I guess we do. Then we'll get more views. Yeah, we need to have a viral video. What should our viral video be? Tell us in the chat.
Right?
What should we do that goes viral?
Brown Boy Dante asked, "What's movie night?" Basically, what it would be is anybody who's on Subscribestar, we would have a night where we're gonna like what do they stream share a movie and sit
Yeah,
around and just kick back and watch a movie
share property
together. It
values
won't be
and yeah.
live streamed or anything for copyright
No.
purposes and everything. It would just be a group of us sitting around and watching a movie one night. Of course,
Yeah.
work it out so that we can get everybody there that is part of Subscribestar. And then boom, do a movie night. Come up with
Yep.
something. Come up with some fun stuff.
Some fun movies. Probably some really bad movies. So we can sit there and laugh at it,
Right?
have a drink. Whatever you do. Shoot some heroin, whatever your thing is, we'll accommodate. You can do whatever you want on your side of the screen.
Right. Uh, John McPhee's John McPhee's poo hammock said there's no
That's a
ads
great
over on
name.
D Live. He says, "What does the viral voice of COVID-19 sound like?" Coof coof.
Poof poof. I like this guy.
Uh,
I think the guy. I'm probably
he's,
being sexist or something or some kind of phobic. I don't know.
can we watch Sling Blade first? Henry asked. I'm all for it. I love that movie.
If you want to join the subscribe star, yeah, you'll absolutely have a say at least in what movie we watch.
I reckon I'm gonna kill you. I love that movie. One of Billy Bob's best roles.
Blade, I call it a Kaiser blade.
Right.
Mhm.
Uh, John, John says so. Friends with benefits if we sign up for Subscribe Stars. Yes, it is a friends with benefit type of thing.
It will be your friend, and you will have benefits. Correct.
There should be a link in the description, in our description on one or both of the channels. I don't know. I just realized, was there a problem with that link? Did it not go to the right place? Did we hear something about
We
that, or
heard
did
that
we
from
get it
Steven,
solved?
yeah. Did we not fix that, Robert?
I don't know if we did or not. By we mean me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember if I addressed it or not.
Well, find out.
Well, I will, but maybe not during the stream.
Or check,
If
find out.
worst case scenario, I'll have it updated in the stream after the show. So check back, and I'll make sure it's updated in previous
Damn it, Robert.
descriptions as well. Hey, you know what? You know what, John?
Listen,
You
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 only
were in
have
charge
20
of
jobs.
Subscribe Star, and you gave me a
Yeah.
link. And if it's a bad link, that's on you.
I know the link was good before.
Oh, was it, John?
It
Was it?
was.
Did you
Yeah,
follow the
I
link
trusted
or
you.
did you
Yeah, I
just
trusted
give the link? Why would you follow the link? There's no real good reason for you to follow the
you.
link just to
For
check it
trusting me to
out.
make sure it
Don't even
worked.
don't even try and insinuate that. These are just false accusations of fucking fraud that don't hold up any in court or hold up
This claim of generational gap fraud is disputed. Okay.
Henry says we're sorry the page you requested cannot be found. That was his message. See? God
Yeah.
bless America. I'll fix it, Henry. I swear to God, I'll fix it. I'll fix
Yeah,
it right
we'll
after
fix
the
it.
show.
Promise you.
I want, but you know what? I'm going to say this. I'll put this out there because I think it was Midget that posted it. It was an interesting little. Maybe it wasn't him. I don't know. I can't keep up with this. Who all does stuff in Discord anymore?
Right.
They all look alike. Uh,
They all look the same.
but it's
Just a
an
bunch
it.
of avatars with a bunch of text.
But it's an article talking about studies that they've been doing, and with IQ tests and everything, and saying that like the youngest generation is like one of the first generations where the kids aren't smarter than the adults. Like,
No.
because they're it's a digital generation, and like all the
Yeah.
screen time that they're getting is slowing down,
I
impeding their
know.
cognitive functions, their concentration, things like
Okay.
this. So they're not developing like they should be because it's they're growing up digital, and so now
Yeah.
they're dumber. They're not as
Makes sense.
smart. I told
You don't have to know shit when you can just Google it real quick. Like,
I said this was going to happen. I've always said this was going to happen.
oh yeah, plenty of people have said that. Yeah.
I remember sitting on an Apple Macintosh computer back in the late 80s, early 90s, and just going when I saw my first porn image on the computer, I'm like, we're fucked.
That shit like
We're
took
fucked.
hours to fucking load. Oh my god,
Mhm.
because you had dial up and
Oh,
shit. Oh
line
yeah.
by line. Sometimes
Yeah.
just I'm like,
Yeah.
is that the areola? Is that
Oh,
what I
is it
is that?
doing?
Did I finally
Is
get
it
to
doing?
areola? Yeah, right. But I knew I was like, oh, we're screwed now. It's all over from here. It's all over.
Yeah,
But but yeah, so they're getting dumber. So the idiocracy, well on its way to
it's
happening.
happening.
It is happening, folks. If you, that's another one we got to watch on movie night. That's a great one for sitting
Oh
around
fuck yeah.
talking over
Oh
and
yeah.
laughing through. Henry says to remind on Discord when it's up. I will. I will do that. He's too fucked up right now. I'm like,
I feel you,
why do you think the link's not updated?
dude. We're all a little bit fucked up, Henry.
Henry says, I don't want to have kids that are dumber than me. I could literally raise a masturbating potato with more potential.
For
Well,
real. Or a
look,
dog. Just a dog. And like that's good enough, I guess. Yeah.
here's what I've got to say about this. Look, it's very simple. there is no reason for a child to have a device in their hands before the age of, I'm going to say, 13 to 15. Guess
Yeah.
what? There were millions of kids raised before devices that were
Billions.
raised with billions without them,
Yeah.
right? They were, and it's, the key is to have two parents that are on board with the same mentality. This is what's
Right.
important. So when one parent, dad, comes along and says, you only get 30 minutes of screen time, and then it goes away till after dinner where you can have another 30 minutes of screen time, maybe an hour. And
Yeah.
then someone else comes along and says, oh, it's all right. Go ahead. I don't care. You can stay on it.
It
You
seems
can do
rather
this.
personal.
This happens all over the place, and that's the key. Is the
Yeah.
parent, if you don't have parents that are following the structures and boundaries of that, you're gonna fuck your kids. You're going to fuck your kids. I'm just saying it.
In self-defense, Susan. In self-defense, you fuck your kids, right?
Yeah, I mean yeah, I mean it's right. It's you're just going to screw them up. It really is, and so that's the takeaway. If you don't have kids, just take that with a grain of salt. Stick it in your little tool bag for when you do. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Get them
I was
outside.
the same. Yeah.
I spend time with my three. I babysit for my granddaughter. She's 3 years old right now. We spend a lot of time outside. She's drawing on
Yeah.
the sidewalk with chalk. We're running around taking pictures of bees and butterflies and flowers. We're swinging. We're taking walks. We're doing things that don't have her focused in front of a screen.
Right.
I don't ever hand her my phone.
Yeah.
I just don't even fucking do it.
She's not a dummy either. Like
Right.
she's not stupid.
No.
She's a precocious little kid. Yeah.
And that's the key to it is, you've got to make sure that that's what's happening through all of those people that are taking care of that child.
Hmm.
Is everybody's got to be on board and everybody's got to do the same thing, because you really start fucking with things if you don't follow the structure, and that's what a lot of kids don't have these days. And you don't get it from a device because it's just so much information constantly. They can't focus. They're constantly
Hmm.
changing. It's feeds and YouTube, and it's feeds and Facebook, and it's this, that, and the other. and
Yeah.
and you don't have to learn
So,
anything because everything's being told to you, but 99% of it's bullshit.
yeah. Well, that's true. No, I mean, I found myself having that same problem. Like, I've always had problems with focusing, especially in school, because I just didn't give a fuck. Like, I just wasn't interested. But, like, I've noticed that with, being on social media all the time and YouTube and stuff for like short clips, my attention span isn't what it used to be. And I'm 30. So imagine growing up that way without an attention span. It's just, that's insane.
Right. um, Uh, John McAfee's Pooh Hammock says your children's intelligence is determined by how smart of a whammon you can put up with, and that's true. She's got to be the right kind of smart for you, right? She does.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it, but a lot of it is attention span. At least when it comes to like knowledge or like, so not intelligence itself, because that's more determined by your genetics, but like your knowledge or your education is different than that.
Right, but
So
concentration. If
yeah, you're right. The
concentration is
concentrate.
impacted,
I don't know. I don't know how much genetics play into
well, no,
concentration or
it
like your ability to
that's
focus.
one of the things that they say the device's impact is your
Right. But
concentration capability. And
right.
when you don't have good concentration, it makes gaining knowledge that much more difficult.
Right. Which is a problem. Yeah.
Right, because it's great to have the storeroom for a lot of knowledge and to be able to understand a lot of knowledge, but the
Yeah.
knowledge has got to be put in there in the right way. All right, it
Right.
can't come through a
Yeah.
device. with a parent who just says, you know what, I'm going to kick back over here on my own device or watch TV or take a nap. You play on your tablet. Here, play on my
Yeah.
phone. Well, or the smart TV. Just use the smart TV, right? So it's
Yeah, I
like,
mean that is a major problem with like I guess commoditizing. I don't know. Is that the word for it? I don't know. Basically making education a commodity
right,
in that way is that I don't know, you're dumbing people down, ironically.
right,
I guess not ironically, but you know, uh, counterintuitively, you're actually making people dumber because they don't have to remember things. They can just be like, "Oh, well, let's look up a video. Okay, here's how I do that," and then they just forget it again because if they need it, they just look it up again. Um, and I think that is a huge problem. Yeah.
right. Well, was it Henry says if he has kids, it's when he's out in the woods and they have no option but nature. Uh, but no, that makes
That's
good
on the
sense.
other extreme,
Yeah,
which I'm not completely against. Just make sure you allow them to socialize, though,
yeah.
because that is a problem if they're not able to socialize with other people. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
about all that about isolating yourselves in the woods alone. With just your family.
Well,
That's when you get like Gigi Allen and stuff.
yeah. I mean, there's a big enough challenge with living a disconnected life. I mean, already, right? So, but Michael Vega has shown up. His first comment was knight to d5, but I guess he was censored for something. Good golly fuck, I don't know, Michael. I don't know.
Good golly fuck, I
That's
like
what
that.
Michael Vega said. I'm like, I
Oh,
don't
that's
know
what
why
he
he was
said.
censored. Uh, John, I'm 30, attention span. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Michael Vega. Henry says, how do you measure it? I don't even know how much I have. Uh, Vega says, try a concentration camp. Henry says, I
You
love
go to
camp.
2 weeks,
I
you
love,
go for 2 weeks and you learn how to concentrate,
I love,
What else could that
I love camping and concentrating.
be?
Reject humanity, return to monkey. Right.
Yes,
Um,
agreed, dude. Turn to monkey, man.
um,
Jesus.
no, it's just it's a simple thing that like even the devices, like there's so many apps that you can get, that will teach young children things, right? So that makes the devices much more appealing for parents. Oh, great! Now I
Yeah,
don't have to teach them counting because there's an app
we've
for
always
that.
had that, right? Or not always, but we've had that
Well,
for
you
a long
had
time. Sesame Street, from back in the 80s, even
yeah, but
70s, right? Wasn't it 70s that the Sesame Street started?
right,
I don't remember when it started, but
but the
I know it's
TV
old as fuck.
the TV time was a lot easier to control, right? Than giving
Right.
them a device. When a kid has a
Yeah.
tablet, they just go do their own thing with it,
Yeah.
and you don't know
That's
how
why they
much
had
they're
that
on
huge,
it unless you're monitoring.
that's why they had that huge problem with YouTube,
Right,
where people set up like really just fucking disgusting videos that were
right.
the algorithm would eventually bring up after several autoplays would bring up like these just disgusting
Because they were
horrible
being
things.
keyworded with stuff like
Right.
Baby Shark and things like
or
this that were
like or
popular.
like Mickey Mouse, and whatever, and it's Mickey Mouse like having a bottle broken off inside his ass and shit like that, like
Right.
ridiculous horrible shit that shouldn't be shown to kids, but it shows up in the algorithm because of their keywording. Yeah.
But now it's taken a different turn where from an advertisement standpoint, like when I'll let Rhea watch some stuff on YouTube. She likes to watch funny cat videos or whatever. But
Yeah.
now YouTube, like through that medium, has started playing like there's sometimes where it'll play a 5 minute ad. It's like a 5 minute short cartoon
Yeah.
that has a whole plot line that runs for 5 minutes, and they're calling it an advertisement. And I'm like, do you know what this is doing to the focus, to the concentration?
Well, so hang
It's
on, though, because that's nothing new.
well, there's a
Right?
difference, but we've had
Yeah, but
commercials on TV.
right, but what it'll do is like 10 minutes of show and then 2 or 3
Sure,
minutes of commercial.
sure, and I
And
understand that.
That's fucked with like even your generation's concentration ability. I bet you can't concentrate as well as generations before you because of
Right.
something like that, because of ads on television.
Okay.
But obviously, it's not as pronounced as it is now because there's ads everywhere for everything. No matter where you go, there's ads, and so you can
Okay.
just
But now here's the difference. So imagine you're reading, someone hands you a 50-page book and it says, read this.
hmm
In the middle of that, about halfway through, somebody walks up to you and talks to you for 2 or 3 minutes. And
yeah,
then you go back to reading the book. You haven't lost your way or anything.
right. That's
Now,
true.
Now, say you're reading that book, that 50-page book, and then somebody walks up to you in the middle of it and hands you a 15-page book and says, "Stop reading that for the moment. Read this story, and then go back to that one."
Oh, see, that's funny because I don't know if I could do it now, but back in the day, I was able to read like 3 or 4 books at a time. Like not all at the same time, but I mean, like I could read a few pages of this one, move over to another one, and start reading that. Keep
Right.
everything because it was one of them was just for my enjoyment, one of them was for school, whatever the hell else. But I was able to like compartmentalize the stories for each one. And be like, okay, I'm reading this one. This is the story that's going on now.
Right.
Kind of like you do with TV shows, right? You watch more than one TV show at a time. Tuesday night you're watching this, Wednesday night you're watching that,
Sure.
and you can keep them both separate and remember
Sure.
what's going on.
And that,
Same deal.
and that is similar, but it's in the middle of, she'll be watching an episode of, say, I'll use Peppa Pig, and
Yeah,
it'll stop and it'll run 5 minute ad, they call it,
right.
but it's this whole little story. And there's certain things that happen in your brain when you're watching a story, when you're doing that versus when it just stops and you just have something blasting you with something
Yeah,
and then it goes away. There's two different things. Different parts of your brain are reacting in that. So you have to,
yeah.
and for a young
Especially for
developing
a 3 year
mind,
old.
right?
Yeah, for a 3 year
For
old, that's totally different than for
right,
me
you've
when
got
I
to
was
unbuckle
15,
from this
16.
ride and settle into
Yeah,
this ride,
yeah, it's
and
totally different.
you're like, and of course their mind is trying to tie the two together. What does this have to do with that? And it's a challenge.
Yeah,
So advertising is not our friend anymore with stuff,
anymore.
right?
Dude, I've done everything in my life to avoid ads. Like when the DVR was created, when we first got the DVR, oh my God, that was a game changer. I stopped watching shit live. I would
Right,
just be like, okay, I'm gonna record that, and then I'm gonna go fuck off and like play video games or do something until it's over, and then I'm gonna watch it so I can skip through the commercials.
right,
Like I've done everything in my life to avoid ads. I fucking hate them.
right,
They are the bane of my existence. I cannot stand ads. I will pay extra on streaming services to not have ads.
right.
Like I do not like ads. And I use ad blocker on the computer. Everything I can to avoid ads. I just hate ads. Can't do it.
Yeah, Michael Vegas says the DVR was a gift from the gods.
Fuck yes. I mean, it
um,
really was. That was a game changer, man. Because I would just get up and go do something else for the 2 or 3 minutes that commercials were on. I cannot stand ads. I never have.
well, it's just another reason why the screen time is bad for kids, right? It's okay in small amounts, controlled, very controlled. I hate to say it, but when we hear people talking about the brainwashing that goes on, the
Oh,
sheepalizing of the population. Well, this is the medium through which it's going to happen primarily,
yeah.
right? Is going to come through devices. So, when kids are outside running around and playing and going to the park and doing shit like that, guess what they're not doing? They're
Well, shit.
not
There's still
hearing
fucking ads out
propaganda.
there. There's
Do
still bulletin boards. There's bulletins. Whatever the fucking called. Billboards. There's still
Hold
fucking
on, John. I can walk
pamphlets
from
and whatever
here.
the fuck.
I can walk from my house to a park 6, 7 blocks away and never see a bit of propaganda
You
that
can.
goes in front of yeah, it's just
Not
called
everyone
living in
can.
it's just called living where you live. I mean, if you find
Yeah, not
places.
everyone can though.
I mean, no, I mean, I'm not saying that, but not everybody lives with a billboard right outside their house either. I mean,
Right. No, they
they're
don't. I'm
fewer
just
and
saying
far
your
between.
anecdote is not. Your exception proves the rule.
Well, no, I mean, there's a lot of people that live around in suburbs of cities, John. I mean, it's
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's a matter of getting outside of, there's a lot less propaganda being shoved in someone's face when there's not a device by which to deliver it,
That's true. Yes, that's true.
right? If there's not an easily accessible medium and outside playing, having fun, learning about nature, learning about the world, any much better option. I'm
Oh
just
yeah,
saying.
for
You know,
sure. It is.
and I can promise you this, a child will learn sign language, will learn speaking, will learn reading, writing, numbers, the whole nine yards better from a close, loved source than they
It's
will
true.
from any digital or interpersonal relationship with anybody else, as long as it's a
Yeah.
strong role model that does it. And all you got to do is just be a caring parent to be that role model.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. So get off your fucking asses and raise your kids right.
That's right. Damn it.
And they'll be smarter than you. And if you think that the alternative is better, I can promise you it's not, because they're the ones that are going to be taking care of you when you get older.
Well, yeah.
Think
There's
about
that.
it.
Yeah.
Think
I
about
think
it.
also when I was teaching martial arts, the thing that my instructor had always said was, "It is your job to make the student better than you are. That is your job as a teacher." And I think that's also applies to parenthood, right? It is your job as a parent to make your kid better than you are. They should be more successful. They should be smarter. They should be better looking. All of that. Like they should be better than you are in every way that you can possibly, that you personally can do. You should do everything to make them better than you. That way we have a better generation going on. We're not losing shit along the way. But that's obviously that's not happening. There's a lot of lazy people out there, and they're just not doing that.
Michael Vega says, Christ Almighty, if they're not on my level, I truly will be lost to this world. Henry says, I'm just going to give my kids heroic doses of LSD and let them figure shit out on their own.
Dude, that's another way of doing it. Shit.
Look, I tell you what, and this is what I learned. The very first lesson I had about children and the impact that you can have on them as a parent, and it was with my first child, with my ex. Um, when she was pregnant with her, every night I would get down at her belly and I would say, I would say, "Hello, baby girl, it's your daddy. I love you." And I would say that in the same tone, the same way every night through the entire pregnancy. We get to the delivery. It's going to be a cesarean birth. They finally decide to do a cesarean. They do it. They pull the baby out. She's over on the incubator crying. They tell me I can go over and see her. I go over. I lean down and I say those exact things, same tone, same everything. And she shut off like a spigot.
Aw.
And she just looked at me. That is the impact you can have on a child. That
That is
new
that's
life
awesome.
that's nurturing and that's growing. And that affected exactly how I was going to pursue trying to raise them. I was like, everything I do has to be because I care about them.
Hmm.
It motivated me to want to be a stay at home father, to not put them in the hands of somebody else, because I knew I was like, this is going to be what impacts them. Now, that's not to say that life doesn't make things go awry, but
Right.
it is what it is. Um, but if you don't think that you have an impact on your kids, you do. And so
Well, if
it's
you
up
think
to
they're
you
not
to
listening,
do what?
they and so if you think they're not listening,
Right.
they are.
They
Yeah.
absolutely are. Before they even realize they have ears, they're listening
Yeah.
and they're learning. And you just have to make the decision within yourself to about what's right and what path they need to follow and guide them on that path. Fuck a nap. Fuck anything. You need to be the controlling force in those child's lives. That's all there is
Yeah.
to it, if you can.
100%.
It's not always possible. I understand. I
Yeah,
understand
shit
circumstance.
happens,
So,
man.
I won't, I don't
But that's the
immediately
day
knock
of it.
anybody, but, if I find out you're a parent that is lax in like giving a shit about your kids, you're not paying attention to how they're being educated and what they're being told and what they're being taught by those around you and by the public propaganda and education out there. Then I got a few words to say to you. It's your own fault. Whatever you're bitching about right now, it's your own fault.
Right.
Um, Michael Vegas says his kids are going to be clown pilled by the age of 5. It's easy to do that. It's easy to do
Yeah.
that. Start teaching them about any kind of, uh, you know, boogishness very early on. You can preach that while they're in the womb; they'll start to get it. It's amazing.
Right.
It's amazing what they'll learn. If you
Fuck yeah, dude.
right, I see Wyatt has shown up. He's hollering
All
yo
right.
to us. Did
What's
some
up, man?
Michael Face said, "Did someone say force? What are you, state?" Uh,
Yeah,
Wyatt says, "Terrible week, but break now. Oh, must have been very busy with school."
I imagine. Good, man. I hope you're doing all right over there.
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't really checked in with him. That's obviously that's my fault. But yeah, I hope everything's going all right with school and stuff, man.
Yeah, yeah. It can be a tough grind. I mean, it's a roller coaster, is what it is. It's
It's
got
about
some
to
ups
start
and
that
downs.
day, yeah.
There's some weeks where you're just like, man, it's like I'm not even in school, and then you're like, oh shit, there's been a lot of work given to me in those not even in school weeks, and now here comes the crash. you know?
Yeah, yeah. I'm about to be involved in all that shit.
Whatever, you big baby. I don't want to hear it.
What? I am.
Yeah, whatever.
Because in January,
What are
I'm
you
going to
gonna,
school.
what are you gonna learn, John? What are you gonna learn? Huh? Huh? You gonna go
Military
into law?
history. Military history.
Eh,
That's what I'm going for.
That's not a career. Get a law degree.
Bullshit.
Edgar in the house, driving and
Hey.
lurking at the same time. Oh, his why it says school is going well. He's just annoyed.
Yeah,
I'd
I can
love to
see
hear
that.
more about what you're annoyed about. Now, so I'm going to change topic here just a little bit because I've got a question I want to put before you, John, and um, I do well. I have to give an honorable mention real quick to my celebrity of the week. Uh, I'm not going to put up a picture of it because I still have enough respect for people as people to not do it. But Rudy Giuliani, I'm sure you heard about his
Oh
meltdown
my
in
god,
court.
that's so stupid. Not meltdown. What are you talking about?
Well, that's you see these air
Yeah,
quotes. His hair,
yeah.
the hair dye, right?
Oh my god. See, that's
Listen,
what the fucking problem is. No, with the media is that that's what they grab onto
what?
instead of the fucking huge thick
Right,
stack of affidavits that he has in
right,
his hand saying this is the shit right here.
right.
And that
I
doesn't
hear
get
you.
talked about at all. Instead, it's just, oh look, he drips some fucking hair dye. Well, he's a fucking old ass Italian dude, man. Leave him alone. He's stressed out. Fucking yeah, he's gonna fuck up.
You know, you know what? I have to say, it's funny you say that about an old Italian guy. Because I flash back to when they used to talk say that they would that those old Italian guys, all those greasers from back in the day, would use motor
Oh yeah,
oil in their hair to slick it back.
fuck yeah, but they did. In fact, some of them did. Poor ones did for sure.
Now, look, I'm not going to knock Rudy because I already dislike the man because he's not he's I don't know. There's something off about him that I just can't stomach.
Which is
Um,
funny because the media used to love Giuliani.
but he's a different
But
Giuliani than he used to be, in my opinion. He's
I
gotten a
think
lot more.
he's going to do the same thing he went after in the 80s. He busted the crime families in New York. He's going to do the same thing he did with Burisma. He was actually the first one to bring that up back in the late 90s. He was
Right.
like, hey, there's corruption going on there,
Sure.
and busted it. And now we're seeing, oh, with Hunter Biden, he's on their the board for Burisma, but there's nothing to see there though, nothing to see there at all. Even though we already know it's been corrupt since at least the late '90s. We've known that. So like Giuliani's got a big history with busting corruption and
Sure.
actually fixing things.
And that's
And of course, 9/11. He was the mayor of New York during 9/11. He was fantastic then.
sure.
It's only in the past 4 years that
Yeah,
Giuliani's not a good guy.
well, but
Why is that?
there is the part where Giuliani has adopted a much more loose cannon, if not rattled appearance, where he is not as composed as he used to be when he was doing those things. I'm not going to knock anything about him from being a mayor. I thought he was in a great position and did a great job with New York during 9/11. However,
Well, there's a lot of other
he
things he
is
did too, though. That's
he
what I
had
was thinking.
he has become much more boisterous and I guess dangerously unfiltered. Like, I'm constantly on this edge of, is what he doing going to be detrimental to Trump? And if it's not, when will he do something that is detrimental to Trump? That's more what it is to me. It's like, I just I don't love the fact that Donald keeps him in his pocket. I think he would be served better by a different attorney. I don't know why. That's what it is about it. Is
I think
just
it's honestly,
he's
I think it's just the media portraying him in a negative light
sure.
for the first time in his life, and it's getting to him.
Um,
Normally, throughout his entire career, he's been celebrated by the media. Now, all of a sudden, it's all negative. And first of all, you have to ask fucking why. Why all of a sudden are they gonna fucking abandon him, and why are they gonna flip on him like that? Well, the reason is obvious, right? Because he's Trump's guy,
well,
and Orange
I,
Man
I
must be
and,
bad, so
and I'm not.
therefore anybody who works for him must be bad.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie and say that they don't paint him in a negative light. However, you know, as much as I can, I try and go solely based off of what he says, his actions, the things that he puts out there publicly when he's, whether it's, they're reporting on something that happened in a court session, or in a public setting, or an interview, things like this. And
You
so
mean where
I'll
they take
listen to what he
snippets?
says, and
You mean
I'll.
where they take snippets of what he says out of
No,
context?
I honestly try and find the full thing so that I can
That's
see
a good
him through
idea.
make sure that he's not edited out, so
Mm-hmm.
that it's that I see the continuous thing. I really do. And that is, again, it's just his. There's there's a loose edge to him that don't I don't think is going to serve Donald Trump in the long run. Then I say that, and as soon as I do, I think, well, he's been there this long, and you've thought this might be the gaff, this might be the gaff, this might be the gaff,
Right.
and yet he can't gaff enough for even the media to unseat him, to
Right.
discolor him with Donald Trump, or to discredit him enough. Like, I'm sure part of it is the media is trying to make Giuliani look, let him have enough rope to discredit himself, to make himself look like a
Right.
fool, and they'll emphasize everything, like the hair dye, and
Right.
my
Because
only
it's
thing
really inconsequential. Yeah.
the only thing I have to say to that is, look, Rudy, you've got a lot of fucking money. Go and just have it done at a fucking shop in an hour. You can be in and out in an hour with a
Probably
solid
a
color that's
scheduling
not going to
thing.
run. You
It's
don't.
probably a scheduling thing. He had to do it right before
I
he went
under.
on
I
this.
understand.
I mean, he's probably a busy dude. I don't know. I
Then
mean,
don't.
at that level, you're a fucking
Then I'm going to say this. Tough love time. Embrace the fucking gray. Embrace the gray. If
yeah.
don't do. Don't give them the I'm sorry, but the sheeple look at that and they go, "Oh, there's a weakness, right, John?" They're going to
Yeah.
jump on weakness, and if the
100%.
media
Yeah.
says,
Yeah.
"Here's a weakness in Giuliani,"
Yeah.
He's been throwing shit at the wall like an ambulance chasing fucking lawyer. This is what we're
That's
hearing, right? And and now he can't even get
not
his
true
hair
though.
dye
Yeah,
right.
that's what we're hearing.
Do what?
Yeah, I said that's not true, but that's what we're
No, that's
hearing.
what
Yeah.
we're hearing, right? And it's
Right.
and it's like, I don't know, Julie, Rudy, tough love, up your game. Don't give them that. Don't give them that. Don't give them that. Learn from this,
Yeah.
buddy. Learn from this. But anyway, um, I want to say it was Midget again that posted something, and it was now this is just a blog post that someone wrote, and but it was very interesting to me. And basically, are you familiar with the Rubicon River in Caesar, right, with Caesar and the Rubicon
Yeah.
River when he basically began a civil war because he was going to be unseated from power,
Right.
right? Basically, what this blog post is talking about is whether or not Donald Trump is at the Rubicon himself, and is talking about the ways that he can take power, basically seat himself as, for want of a better term, a dictator. Take control with the federal government, right? And we've talked about this before during the riots. But the Enforcement of the Laws to Restore Public Order Act has 4 sections: one that covers federal aid for state governments, one for the use of militia and armed forces to enforce federal authority, another for interference with state and federal law, and then a proclamation to disperse is the fourth one. The keys there are what he can do with, calling up a militia and the armed forces, but the interference with state and federal law. And basically, it's saying that, putting it forward that if this is true about the election, if there is a concerted effort to steal the election by the Democrats, then if there's enough, he doesn't have to go to Congress. He doesn't have to go before anyone to do this. He can enact it, and it basically gives him the power to call up military and militia to address these violations of states by breaking federal law by because of voter fraud,
I can't
throwing the
see him.
election.
I can't see him doing it though.
Okay, so now that's the big question I have. Okay,
Yeah. And
um,
I'll tell you why though. It's because if you look at all of his actions beforehand, he has done his best. The one of the few amendments that he has upheld completely, not completely, but almost completely, more than most other presidents, is the 10th Amendment. He has left decisions up to the state, especially when it comes to the coronavirus. He has left decisions up to the states the entire time, which
sure,
is why, of course, Democrats say he has no plan. He's not doing anything. Well, it's not his job to. He was holding daily press conferences, for a while. And that was the most that he could do as president. That is the most that he can and should do. It's not up to him to, put restrictions in place.
right,
So I can't see him acting, and same with the riots and stuff. He hadn't really sent in federal, especially
sure,
military,
sh-
and to deal with it. And that's
sh-
because of the same reason for the 10th Amendment. It's up to they have to ask him in order to get the military involved, get the National Guard involved.
okay, and I get that, but now we're talking about, he's at a precipice here, a crossroads, we'll say. He
Yeah,
has to either choose to tuck his tail, because more than likely this is going to go Biden's way. I mean, the way this, the courts are shutting down litigation, this, that, and the other, there's a very good chance it's going to go the way of Biden. If
that's
this
also
is,
misinformation, though. They're
whoa, whoa,
not really
whoa,
shutting down those cases. They're
hold
not
on.
shutting down like Trump's actual cases. What they're doing is they're shutting down like lesser cases that are
Right.
coming up
Like I said,
through his
there's litigation
investigation.
that they're shutting down. And my point is,
Right, but there's not really much.
if this is a conspiracy, then it is going to go Biden's way unless the conspiracy can be exposed.
Okay, yeah,
So
yeah,
these acts give the president to act solely on his own to take control of the government and enforce the election. basically, and in this blog, this is what it says. It gives the power to the president to proclaim basically this: I, President Trump, have determined that a conspiracy has deprived 70 million Americans of their right to vote, and that the other authorities are refusing to protect this right. I therefore order the suppression of this conspiracy by any means necessary, and thereby giving himself the sole power to call up and take any approach he wants to suppress this conspiracy.
I think it's going to go to the Supreme Court. I think that's where it's going to go, and I think that's where he's going to. If he does end up winning, that's how it's going to be by the Supreme Court, just like it was in 2000 with Bush and Gore, Al Gore.
And do you think he's going to be able to get the evidence to support a case even before a Supreme Court that looks to lean in his favor?
Um, I
That
mean, I think so. That's what they've been saying. We haven't seen a lot of it, um, but that's what. Not he's not the only one who's been saying it, but yeah, I mean, he's been saying, yeah, we have all this shit. We can't show all of it, and which is, I understand on the face of it, sounds like, oh, I know it, I just can't tell you. Or, if someone, when you're a kid and someone's like, if you know what this word means, you're like, I know what it means, but I'm not going to tell you. Like, I understand it sounds like that, right? But the thing is, the first thing, when you get a lawyer, the first thing they're going to tell you is shut the fuck up. Do not talk about the case. Whatever it is, you do not talk about it. You don't tell anyone what you have. You don't tell anyone anything about it.
right.
And that's the first thing that they're going to tell you. And so, yeah, they're not going to just shout everything that they have. They're just not going to. That's not smart legally to
I,
do.
right, but how smart is it to be going in front of courts with accusations, and and they've been making the accusations ever since the election, but the
Yeah.
evidence, where are they supplying evidence in these cases that
Well,
that's the thing.
they're not saying anything that's not
Because
publicly available, right? As soon as you like have a case for anything, like any kind of legal case, you can go look right now. Those are all public information.
right, but you can find out that things were entered into evidence in cases. I mean, there are certain amounts of, I'm sure that
Because
there's
they have
the
these
media is
affidavits.
allowed in these courtrooms.
Yeah, they said they have X amount of affidavits, right? But they're not going to go through each one individually and specifically
Right.
because they're like, for privacy reasons, for one, right? When the media,
Sure.
they're not going to be allowed to report the people's names who signed these affidavits.
I understand that. All I'm saying is that's what's going to happen. I think, even with the Supreme Court, as long as there's evidence. They're what is it? They're talking about the evidence with the server in Germany. The CIA might be involved, and okay, all right, that's great.
And it's not that's exceptionally serious if a U.S. intelligence agency is in on it. That is huge and very damning. And I imagine that us plebs aren't going to be privy to that information
Right.
if they are, right?
I'm that type of person who's like, look, if you're going to run around yelling fire, I need to see the hard evidence. I need to see it. And I know that there's been people that have come out, witnesses, etc., that have come out and spoken, whether through Veritas or whatever. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, but
But these
somebody's
affidavits
managing to make
say,
those things questionable. Somebody's
well,
managing to do that, and I'm like, okay, so
why, right?
again, this tells me that if it is a conspiracy to steal the election, it's in many ways it's working,
Yes,
right?
it is.
So that tell it brings me to back to, does he decide to go with the Rubicon, or does he just tuck tail and wait for 2024 for a second gambit?
I don't I don't think he's gonna want to. I don't think he's want to do it again in 2024. I know that there are a lot of, especially way pro Trumpers, who are like, oh yeah, he's gonna hold rallies for the next 4 years, and it announce his bid like immediately, and he's gonna go back for 2024, and it's gonna be fantastic. I don't think so. He's old, man. Like I know he's gonna be as old as Biden is now
Then
by the
why wouldn't
time
then why wouldn't he go all in here if he can?
right. That's what I think he's gonna be doing. I don't know about the Rubicon scenario,
I mean,
but he's gonna be going all in
he
anyway.
I mean, it's just I've always known the amount of power ever since the George Floyd thing sparked everything off there. I've known that he's had the power and he still
Right.
maintains it. Even this election fraud, the conspiracy involved that it would be involved in that constitutes, based off what, is allowed. It constitutes the option for him to do that. And I that's I don't know. He's not that loose cannon. He won't go all in that deep, you don't think? I mean,
I
that's
don't
your
think he'll go that far because, again, he's always like the media and leftists in general have always been like he's the Cheeto Hitler and he's the orange dictator and all this other kind of stuff when he hasn't acted like a dictator whatsoever. Even though there's plenty of things he's done that I didn't like, and he's done them in ways that I don't like, he has not acted like a dictator in one bit. Not at all has he acted like a dictator. And doing that in order to secure another 4 years would give them exactly what they want. And he has yet to do that in his entire history, other than maybe like the bump stock ban, right? He threw them a bone basically, but he hasn't actually gone full in to actually be the thing that they say he is.
right. Um, Now this post is a nice long post. It also has some math in it. And it basically goes through all the percentages and numbers of people who own guns, voters this, voters that, people of color, people not white Americans, etc., and looks at all these percentages and basically comes down to when it's talking about the militia, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he's put out a call for militia, that he would probably ultimately pull somewhere about 450 to 700,000 militia from around the country.
If I'm not mistaken, we have about 700,000 people in the military, like all together.
And
If I'm not
most of the
mistaken, it's
militia he
somewhere
would
around there. And
most
then militia added
right.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, now it also looks at scenarios as to, military. It talks about that as well, whether the
Well, you have
military.
to you have to determine who's you know overseas and who's actually like the military that's actually
Right.
here and can
Well, and
activate.
also how much is going to side with him and not side with him
I would
also
say the
factors
vast
in.
majority would, um, at least in the fact that they like him. I don't know how many of them will remember, their oath that they take going in about protecting the constitution or defending the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Um, that remains to be seen. I'm sure there would be a schism of some kind, but I do think, and I'm going against myself in the past. I know on the show in the past, I've been like, there's no way American soldiers would fire on Americans. Not so sure about that anymore.
Right. Well, I
Yeah, I've
mean,
kind of that back a bit now.
right.
Because we see, police doing that. And I'm not talking about like unarmed, black men or whatever. I'm talking about like during riots and stuff. Like, and while that's going on, yeah, usually they're not using live ammunition, but it's the fact that they're willing to do that. I'm like, okay, I can see that happening with the military as well. These are subversive groups that are, attacking the country or
Right.
attacking federal buildings, and we need to defend them. I could see that kind of happening. So I'm not as 100% sure anymore as I was before.
Right.
But still, you would have to separate that group from the group who would support him, however, would also not
Well, that's a
fire on American citizens. So you have to
right.
separate that group into an even smaller group.
Well, that was the ultimate number it came down, factoring in all of these things beforehand from the millions of people that would be pro-Trump in this kind of scenario,
And how
right?
many people would actually
And
do
that's
something that was
right.
different?
Well, that's what it's if much like the Continental Army and the Revolution, it's expecting a 3% response for a call for the call for militia.
And I think it
So
was something like 10% had to be in support, not necessarily uh, do something, but you have to have like 10% of the population in support of revolution in order to have one.
what, a militia?
A successful revolution has to have
Oh,
10% of the population
right.
on board.
Well, now this is not necessarily. This is just saying, when you talk about a revolution, if the last
It
time a
can be a
militia was
revolution,
used,
it'd be a coup.
right?
Yeah, and I'm saying that this would be doing that. I would say would constitute as a coup, or
Yeah, no,
I
no,
would,
no. This would definitely constitute as a coup. It was just saying
yeah.
the last time a full militia was called up was in the Continental Army, and that was 3% of the American population showed up.
Wait, it was, yeah. 3% showed up. Were there not in the Civil War? I
Well,
I'm pretty
the
sure.
Civil War was more conscripted into service, weren't they? Not,
Oh, some of them, not everyone,
not.
but yeah.
I didn't think the Civil War was an open call to militia so much as it was a conscription
It
into
was
service.
definitely conscription from the North immediately, and then later on, the Confederacy had to start doing it because they couldn't replace their soldiers fast enough.
Right.
Um, but
But
I'm
yeah,
pretty
but that wouldn't
sure
have been a
there
full
was
call
militias
to militia.
involved. But yeah, I'm saying I'm pretty sure there were militias involved too, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, so this is in this scenario, Trump's putting out a call for militia across the entire country. So you're talking about, all 50 states. He would be putting that out to, and then it breaks down all the numbers of but like I said, between voters, races, gun owners, this, that, and the other, and the bulk of who would be there in his militia. If it was only 3% of, the total amount of people across the country that would be in support of this, um, most of those would be ex-military, ex-police because of the simple fact that we've been at war for 20 years
Yeah, I can agree with
plus,
that. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Which is
It's
so it's I honestly agree that were he to choose to do this, he's at a very secure place to
yeah,
do it
but
from.
yeah, but you're gonna have a lot of people on the right, not only pissing off the entire left, but a lot. In fact, I would
They
say
won't they
the
won't
left
matter
and the
anymore.
right as well.
I
I
mean,
I
it's the ultimate boot.
I still don't think so. No, I
Could
don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, and that's okay. I mean, and that's fine. So then that tells me if this looming inevitability based off the potential conspiracy, or if it's just natural occurrence, I don't know. I don't know. I can't balance all the misinformation and true information on this one. I'm
Well,
having to sit out as far as making a decision about which way
let's
this went.
see,
It
let's see what the
sucks.
chat brings in the
Um,
meantime.
They were talking about. They talked a little bit. They were explaining to Henry about Caesar, and basically he was going to be ousted for power. How he, crossed the Rubicon River into Italy and started the civil war that basically put him as the emperor of Rome. Uh, but then Henry says, "One day you guys will understand. This is all intentional." Yeah, I get it. We're
See,
gonna.
no, I just don't have faith in humans in general to try and be like, oh, everything is orchestrated. That's just ridiculous. There's no fucking way everything is orchestrated. It's just impossible. I think that it's much more likely that people are taking advantage of a situation rather than completely manufacturing it. I think
I
that's
I
far more likely.
I have to say, John, I think that if you look at the larger picture and understand that or see from my perspective that I believe that controlling the masses has been an art form
Sure.
being
Yeah.
developed for thousands of years, right?
Yeah.
And
I'm talking about that.
here,
But yeah.
I mean, that's one of the, it's very easy to imagine that, like we talked about with Britt the other night, these long-term plans
Hmm.
that occur,
Yeah.
you know,
I agree with that. What I'm saying is though, that events that happen, not necessarily, the long-term goal of, controlling all the information and brainwashing people into, like, yeah, obviously that's
well,
going on. But what I'm talking about is, like the 9/11 conspiracies, like, you know, uh, any of these, where a bunch of people die, something horrible happens, and it's a conspiracy. Sandy Hook was another one, which
right.
will probably get taken down just for mentioning it. Um, which I don't believe. I think Sandy Hook happened. Everyone, calm down. Susan, calm down. Um, but my point is though that, like, people, every time something happens, anything happens, there'll always be people who are like, oh, this is they're crisis actors, and this was staged, and like every single time it's like, dude, I'm sorry, it doesn't happen like that. Like, people are actually fucked up. Like, if you go outside of your house, people are actually fucked up sometimes, and they do fucked up shit sometimes. You're just going to hear about it every time
Right.
because of how the media works. We have 24-hour news cycle. Like, you're going to hear about every fucked up thing that every fucked up person does.
Sure. Sure.
It does not mean that, like, everything that happens is staged.
Right. However, where the next level of control comes in is how those things are responded to. Like if it served one side or the other to run with a conspiracy theory. I don't know,
Yeah.
say that there was Russian ties to the president of the country that
Right.
affected the election, that they would jump on those conspiracies and run
Right.
with them to
That's true.
accomplish a goal. So
That's what
how
I'm saying. Though. It's they're taking advantage of an opportunity, not
sure, but
doing
these
it
things
themselves.
and but that is another means of control in how you respond to it, how some you ignore. If you ignored it, just goes in the annals of conspiracy theory. Otherwise you turn it into some major thing and you control the narrative in the public conversation. And that's the important thing to controlling the masses. Is if you can control the narrative in public conversation by what you let go out to the press from the seat of power, you you get to pull the strings. You get to continue to pull the
Yeah.
strings. You know, I mean, it's all carefully orchestrated how everybody responds to things. They sit and they strategize this, that, and the other. That's what makes Donald Trump such a wild card is he's not strategizing before he throws out something out on Twitter, right? And
What
that,
makes him a wild card is he's not part of the strategy.
well, I get it,
Why he's
right?
a wild
But
card?
now
Yeah.
he has his own strategies, and
Right.
he's got his own
I'm
little
saying he's
war
not part of
council that
the
he
strategy.
talks with.
Yeah.
But when it's all said and done, yeah, I mean, and this is a good segue into this next section, and I'm going to share this, and hopefully this won't. I don't know if you're, what you're allowed to put up anymore. What'll get you taken down for sharing or broadcasting, but I don't give a shit. I'm gonna share this with you, John. I'm gonna put it up for folks. It's not really a video. It's just audio anyway, but I don't want them to look at a dead blank screen. Oh, you need audio to go with that. There.
Yeah.
So tell me if you see that there's something there.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
now this is an interview. It was a meeting that was going on, and this is a recording that was taken at the meeting up in Canada in regards to the coronavirus. So hopefully everybody can
Dr.
hear it.
Hodkinson, I just want to let you know I'm standing by.
Oh, okay. Well, we would love to hear from you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate the opportunity to address you on this very important matter. What I'm going to say is lay language and blunt. It's counter-narrative, and so you don't immediately think I'm a quack. I'm going to briefly outline my credentials so that you can understand where I'm coming from in terms of knowledge base in all of this. I'm a medical specialist in pathology, which includes virology. I trained at Cambridge University in the UK. I'm the ex-president of the pathology section of the Medical Association. I was previously an assistant professor in the Faculty of Medicine doing a lot of teaching. I was the chairman of the Royal College of Physicians of Canada Examination Committee in Pathology in Ottawa. But more to the point, I'm currently the chairman of a biotechnology company in North Carolina selling a COVID-19 test. And you might say I know a little bit about all of this. The bottom line is simply this. There is utterly unfounded public hysteria driven by the media and politicians. It's outrageous. This is the greatest hoax ever perpetrated on an unsuspecting public. There is absolutely nothing that can be done to contain this virus, other than protecting older, more vulnerable people. It should be thought of nothing more than a bad flu season. This is not Ebola. It's not SARS. It's politics playing medicine, and that's a very dangerous game. There is no action of any kind needed other than what happened last year when we felt unwell. We stayed home, we took chicken noodle soup, we didn't visit Granny, and we decided when we would return to work. We didn't need anyone to tell us. Masks are utterly useless. There is no evidence base for their effectiveness whatsoever. Paper masks and fabric masks are simply virtue signaling. They're not even worn effectively most of the time. It's utterly ridiculous seeing these unfortunate, uneducated people, I'm not saying that in a pejorative sense, seeing these people walking around like lemmings, obeying without any knowledge base to put the mask on their face. Social distancing is also useless because COVID is spread by aerosols, which travel 30 meters or so before landing. And closures have had such terrible unintended consequences. Everywhere should be open tomorrow, as was stated in the Great Barrington Declaration that I circulated prior to this meeting. And a word on testing. I do want to emphasize that I'm in the business of testing for COVID. I do want to emphasize that positive test results do not, underlined in neon, mean a clinical infection. It's simply driving public hysteria, and all testing should stop unless you're presenting to hospital with some respiratory problem. All that should be done is to protect the vulnerable and to give them all, in the nursing homes that are under your control, give them all 3,000 to 5,000 international units of vitamin D every day, which has been shown to radically reduce the likelihood of infection. And I would remind you all that using the province's own statistics, the risk of death under 65 in this province is 1 in 300,000. 1 in 300,000. You've got to get a grip on this. The scale of the response that you're undertaking, with no evidence for it, is utterly ridiculous, given the consequences of acting in a way that you're proposing. All kinds of suicides, business closures, funerals, weddings, etc., etc. It's simply outrageous. It's just another bad flu. And you've got to get your minds around that. Let people make their own decisions. You should be totally out of the business of medicine. You're being led down the garden path by the Chief Medical Officer of Health for this province. I'm absolutely outraged that this has reached this level. It should all stop tomorrow. Thank you very much.
So,
That was real.
yeah.
Or was it?
Right. So that was one thing I was going to ask is, have we verified that he is who he says he is, and that he's done the things that he says he's done?
No information has been given about who the person was in that. The talk. I don't. Yeah, I don't think any name was given.
Yeah, that's already a red flag
Sure.
there. And then also, it seemed like he was more in a you know how like counties will hold public hearings and stuff, so you can come in and just say whatever wacky shit you want to say,
Well,
and then they can ignore
well,
you.
this was up in Canada,
Right, but I'm saying
right?
it sounds like the same kind of deal where he wasn't like talking to anyone.
It was a Zoom call,
It was a Zoom call, I'm sure. Yeah, yeah, okay, fair enough.
right?
But
I don't know if you were paying attention to to the screen, but there were a bunch of people on the Zoom call, so it looked like it
okay,
was some sort of town hall, etc.,
yeah.
that might be being held up there.
So then, why wouldn't he, if he is who he says he is, have access to people higher? Now, maybe he tried and couldn't get anywhere because obviously they want, to use the politics of it. I don't know. Um,
Well,
I mean, but that's the thing. The problem is, and I'm not saying that he's wrong or that he's not who he says he is. I'm just saying that what gives me pause for that is that he's saying exactly the things that I want to hear from a medical professional, right?
sure,
Like he's saying exactly this thing that not only me but other people want to hear. That it's not that bad. It's just the flu. It's a kind of a worse flu, and that social distancing doesn't work. The masks don't work, right? Like he's saying like hitting all these things exactly as I would want to hear them, and that always gives me pause. Like we talked about before about salesmen, right? When they're pushing it really hard and
right,
they're telling you exactly what you want to hear. Like that's when you're like, all right, I'm done with you because I know you're full of shit. Now I'm not
right,
saying that he's full of shit. I don't know. We have if we verify who this person is, then I'm much more likely to believe it.
sure.
But, but he could just be anybody and say that, right? That's not like a crime. He could just be anyone. I don't know if that's a crime in Canada, but
No,
it
no,
might be.
no. And oh, wait. Let me check something. I was seeing if I could see if there were any corresponding comments that might have shown a little more light. Of course, it wants to be difficult with me.
Of course.
But the key thing there, is I question in my head after listening to that is, you know, okay, so that was in Canada, right? And
Yeah.
so he was probably saying that in a public forum, so they know who he. I assume they know who he was, or
Well, he made a comment
he
saying
wasn't
something
he wasn't
different.
doing it anonymously, is what I'm assuming in their meeting, right?
Zooming, yeah.
So he gave credentials that I'm assuming those people could verify that were in that meeting with him, right? Of where he trained and
Ooh.
what he learned and what he studied, et cetera, et cetera. Even his current job, which, think about it, is like he basically said that the job that he's doing is utterly fucking, bullshit because he's addressing a need that shouldn't be there with testing. He said, stop all the fucking testing. He sells the tests, right? So,
Right.
right.
That's what I'm saying. It's too on the nose and too perfect.
Sure. And I get it. I get it. There's reason to question it. But the other aspect of it is the media and how they don't. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of this coming out because one thing that
First,
we know
yeah.
about scientists is what there's a varied spectrum. Like look at climate sciences or science, right? Some are saying,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, the world's ending." Others are going, "Dude, it's not that bad."
Right.
So virologists, some are like, "Oh my God, the
It
sky is
has to do
falling."
with someone's willing to grant you money to give you grant money to work on whatever you want to work on. All you gotta do is play ball. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like, yeah, scientists are as corrupt as academia, and they're as corrupt as the legal professions are as corrupt as politicians. Like, they're all corrupt. It's just like I don't know. I
I
don't know
th-
how you thought how you solve that. I honestly don't.
well,
Because I mean that's why they always say, 9 out of 10 dentists, recommend this toothpaste. Well, who's the other one?
right,
Right? He's the one that didn't take the money. Like that's what it is, right?
right.
And uh, so yeah, I mean, if a toothpaste company comes to you with fucking mega money and you want to work on something else, yeah, you say a little line, be like, yeah, I'll sign off on this. Fine, cool, awesome. Here you go. You have my recommendation now, and now I'm gonna go work on the thing I want to work on that actually does do good. But at the same time, you've already compromised your character by signing off on something that you don't give a fuck about.
Well,
It's very easy to do. I could see it being done very easily. There's some minor levels like that, and then think about how much money you're getting, or especially when you're a top level person,
well,
what the benefits are for just
the,
signing off on something.
it does bring up the argument as to whether or not there is, if there's a greater goal involved in um, the continued response
Hmm.
to the coronavirus, right? Because ultimately, there was a knee jerk reaction within the world from a global perspective. And uh, to me, it seems like America, from Donald Trump's perspective, we had to get on board, right?
Hmm.
So with the narrative, right? And so states
Right.
responded to that by instituting lockdowns.
Well, see, I
Um,
wouldn't blame the states though. I would blame the media
well, the media, and
because
that's why I say the
that's why the
media.
government reacted the way that they did was because of what they were being fed.
So my question is, if this were a legitimate voice out there from the virology community, from the medical community, and there's more people like this, what's got to be done to get these voices being heard louder than the mainstream media? Because that, I get what you're saying about that, says everything that you want to hear,
Yeah.
but it's also saying the things that you've suspected most of this time.
Right, and that kind of gives me pause. Not that like he's, on someone's payroll or some bullshit like that. What I mean is like that he could just be saying that stuff in order to try and persuade people to end the lockdowns and stuff, which is fine, except for the misinformation part, which I'm not a fan of, no matter who it's coming from.
Hmm.
Even if it's
Oh
something
yeah,
that I want to hear personally, it's not. I want to know what the truth is,
sure.
and he's saying every single thing though that I want to hear, and that is suspicious in itself.
Well, it's I don't like hearing that masks are ineffective, and potentially pointless and etc. And know that I have to keep wearing it. The main takeaway I took away from that is people being duped, or
Yeah.
cajoled into following this pattern.
Right. Which
And
obviously, for vindication reasons, is what I want
sure,
to hear, right?
sure.
But that's
And
what
when
gives
you're
me pause about it. It's like I can't be 100%. There's no
right,
way I'm 100% right. There's no
well,
fucking way that's gonna happen.
s-
Like I'm not that smart.
well, I flash back to the '80s,
Yeah.
in the situation, and I watch how the government, through its medical agencies, controlled the narrative of
Yeah.
a very dangerous virus, and downplayed it so much that it was able to get into the very people that they purported didn't need protecting from it. And it wasn't, it
Right.
was just, it was nothing. It was just,
It was grids before it was AIDS, right? It was gay-related
yeah,
immunodeficiency.
yeah, it was a gay disease. It had nothing to do with anybody else. And so they
Right.
weren't following up on it. They weren't looking into it.
Now, how many people do you think like that got it were like, oh no, I'm not gay. I've never had any kind of
There were many. There
I'm
were
sure there were plenty,
there were
but
there were huge situations that went on.
I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of that because at the time it was not okay to be like out. It wasn't okay to be, out of the closet.
Well,
Um,
it was when they found out that there were, that it could be transferred by blood.
yeah,
I mean, and they found that out far too late, or figured it out too late to stop what was already happening.
yeah,
I mean, for God's sake, it can incubate in your body for years and
yeah,
not even present anything. So you have no idea to go get checked for it. So they dropped the fucking ball because they were controlling the narrative that came from the medical. So the question I have is, who's controlling this narrative?
yeah,
We can say the mainstream media, but I can promise you the response from government is so tightly controlled that what goes into the media from our capital is known. They know most of the leaks, this, that, and the other. They know it's going out, and they're timing it, and they're playing around with it. And
yeah.
they may have virologists telling them the same thing that we just watched in this video, but they're not feeding that to the mainstream media
Right.
as a nugget to run with because they don't want that narrative to be spun yet.
Yeah.
Now, now is whose interest is it in to spin that narrative moving forward when we
I
finally
think we
decide
know.
find out who our president is going to be?
Yeah, exactly. When there's a presidential election coming up and Orange Man has been bad for 4 years, I think we
Right?
know.
And how do we turn this into a hoax perpetrated by the administration, not
Right.
us?
Right.
So who is in control? Is it the administration? Are they controlling all of this and prompting states to do things? Is it the other side? Is it, you know,
Well, we know that. I mean, I say we know. There's no obviously concrete proof, but we're pretty damn sure that. I mean, the mainstream media, with maybe the exception of Fox, but who knows? But the mainstream media in general is the propaganda wing of the Democrat Party. I mean, that's extremely clear. If you look at any of them, MSNBC's, CNN, NBC, ABC, all those different organizations, they're owned by what, like six different companies, right? Our news media is extremely centralized. And do you not think that the CEOs of those corporations, have an end in politics? I mean,
but,
of course they do,
but
right? We talk about it all the time about
sure,
dirty money and corruption in politics. What do you think it comes from? Well, it's going to come from
sure,
the major rich corporations. Six of those happen to be all of our media.
right. And I get it, but I'm not going to say that there's not a certain amount of narrative that's also controlled by the Republican side of things, between the
I mean,
Republican side of things and the
okay,
administration, because those are two separate entities in this when it comes to
exactly.
propaganda that's coming out. Do what?
Not in the same way, though. Not to the same scale.
Well, in the type of propaganda that's coming out, like the Republicans
Similar,
in
yeah,
Washington are letting out a certain narrative
yeah.
that
No,
is not
absolutely.
necessarily constantly in line with the administration narrative.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, that's true. It's just not to the same scale, and that's what I'm
Sure,
talking about.
I got
Because
you.
listen, if it was the Republicans doing this same thing that the Democrats are doing, I would have the same message on the same side. I'd be like, fucking Republicans,
So, so if
been controlling the media and shit. Well, it's not though. So I'm not as worried about what they're doing at the moment as what Democrats doing.
so if Donald Trump manages to shake up the election results and is declared the winner, does the Democratic Party then turn around and flip the narrative on the coronavirus and takes things like this that are being said and make it his fault that we went into this horrible pit, and that this was a big hoax generated by the administration.
That's a possibility. I don't know that they can get away with that though. I don't know that they can get away with that because there's a lot of memory loss, a lot of things that are memory hold that, especially early on in this virus, a lot of things that were memory hold. Um, but I don't think they'll be able to get away with that because it's been so long that they've been talking about it and that they've been hounding Trump on you're doing nothing about it. You're doing nothing about it. You're doing nothing about it. This is the most serious thing that humanity has ever faced in the history of ever. And we need to, everyone needs to be locked in their own 6x6 cell with a straitjacket in order to stay safe. You know what I mean? It's totally. I don't think they can get away with that sudden flip. I don't think we're at George Orwell levels of, newspeak or fucking, media anymore.
I
I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think
I
we're there yet.
oh, I think I
That
think
happened, but I'm just saying when I don't think we're there yet because you can still pull up news articles from a year ago, right? You can't do in George Orwell's 1984. You can't do that because everything's been changed. So as soon as you go back to it, it's already been changed. We have archive. We have, you know what I mean? Like we have all kinds of things that you can pull up. That so even if they go and edit that article that they wrote 2 years ago, there's still an archive of it of the original. Like that exists on the internet. Archive sites are a thing.
yeah,
It'd be
I
impossible to scrub that from existence.
I think that I think that we're further along the Big Brother track than
I don't
you
think we're
think.
that far.
Only from the standpoint that no matter which side you're on, your narrative is being controlled. And by
But I
what I
still
mean
don't think.
what I mean by that is that if you are against the narrative, that is by design. The narrative is designed to make sure that you have pro or con, and
Right.
with that you create contention within the masses, and thus you control the masses more easily when they're pitted against each other and not against you.
I mean, while that does hold true for the most part, um, I don't think that would continue. I mean, I don't think that while there are some obviously that are that down the rabbit hole, the radical left side that will believe, um, Oceania had always been at war with Eurasia. I'm sure there are people who will believe that. Uh, but the vast majority of people wouldn't. They'll either remember or they'll be shown, hey, look, no, this is actually not the case. Look at this article from, so and so time. And they're like, oh, I guess I'm just misremembering that. And then that plants that seed in that person. I think it'd be a lot easier if they lie to that degree to flip people against them.
Well, we the
So like I said, I just don't think we're that far along.
well
I don't think that Oceania has always been at war with Eurasia,
right. Well,
and I don't think that most people will agree with that.
ultimately here I believe there is one barrier left for them to remove, and that is transparency.
Well, that's that and censoring the internet.
Well,
Once you can
tra-
scrub those archive sites, that's when
well
you're going to
that's
see a lot of that.
that to me falls under the umbrella of transparency. They'll scrub anything that sheds light on them, but and shut down. We're gonna. I expect sometime soon we're gonna lose any Freedom of Information Act
Yeah,
capability in
yeah.
this country. That's going to go away sometime in the near future.
Within the next 20 years, for sure, it'll be gone.
Easily, right?
Yeah.
And that is once you remove the need for transparency, or the ability to for transparency. I don't even, that's not the right word either. But anyway,
Yeah.
once you
I don't.
remove the threat of transparency,
Mhm.
all holes are off.
Yeah.
It's you can pretty much do what you want, and that's what they've got to get at. And that is going to incorporate censorship of the internet. That's going to incorporate tighter control of the narrative coming out of Washington, and ultimately tighter control of the press, which, you know, the sad it's very funny that, you know, no matter which side you are on, um, there are so many people that want the First Amendment stepped on when it comes to the
Yeah.
mainstream media. I mean, you know,
In general, they're stepped on, yeah.
right? It's like, oh my God, you know, you've got the people on the right that are like, oh my God, everything's fake news and everything's
Oh, no,
biased and it's controlled by.
like everything's. We're talking about like the far right. It's more like everything's degenerate, and we don't need to see, you know,
I,
more puritanical things than
well,
you're going to see on
I
the
was
left.
I was speaking across the
So,
right as a spectrum. You've got it. You've got it. I mean, there are, you know, less extreme right that don't want to be, you know, sold lies from the mainstream media simply because they have freedom of spread of press, and they can spout their opinions and their
I think you'll
conspiracy
see both.
ideas
I think you'll see
freely.
most right-wing people are more likely to move on to alternative media as opposed to stopping the mainstream media from
That is the
existing.
hope.
No, I'm talking about it's only like the super far right people who instead of they don't even want to get rid of the media, the mainstream media. They just
Oh,
want to be the one to
well,
control it.
sure, and
Totally
and
different.
but any control over media in any way, shape, or form starts squashing the First Amendment.
Yeah, 100% does. Yeah,
I mean, that's all there is to it. And wherever on the spectrum you are of wanting to control what happens with the media, what happens with the press, as it were, well, you want to squash First Amendment rights.
right.
And you need to seriously look at that, because, you know, it's if that one goes, if that's the last bastion. That's it right there. Everything is summed up in that First Amendment, in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
I
The
understand
reason
what
why
the
it's
others
first.
do,
No,
but
the reason why it's first though.
right.
Yeah.
It is those are the things that make me feel like I'm actually free in this country, that I can sit here and have my
Yeah.
conversations with you and say what I want, which
Right.
unfortunately we know is, you know, private organizations will control as they will. That's up to them. I can't force that, right?
Yeah.
But the federal government coming in and saying you can't run your stream anymore, well, that would be another fucking problem for me, right?
Right.
Um,
100%.
but me being able to come over to your house and hang out with you and talk to you, to be able to go in
Yeah.
and do business with somebody, you know, and understanding that if they don't want to do business with me, that's their business.
Right.
I All of those things are what make me feel free here. It's being able to
Yeah.
go out of my house and just walk out into my country, my world around me, and do, you know, my thing.
Yeah.
All of the rest of the amendments support that. I get
Right.
it. But
You're right.
that one is the real deal to me, and
It
I'm
is.
sorry. I don't give a fuck what side you're on. If you want to
Yeah,
control,
America is unique in that fact that we
right?
have a guaranteed freedom of speech. No other country has a guaranteed freedom of speech. Some of them have freedom of speech, air quotes, in their constitutions, but it always has a caveat. Ours does not.
Now, I don't like it that there is so much misinformation allowed to spread. Well, not allowed. I shouldn't say allowed. That, yeah, allowed from a self-regulation standpoint, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, if you're spinning the narrative, you know, at your media company, whatever the case may be, or whoever you are, you're spinning your narrative to, yeah, okay, I don't like it because you're feeding me shit, right? I'm not a mushroom.
Right.
I don't want to
But
be
you have the
kept in the dark
choice.
and fed a lot of shit.
You have the choice to turn it off
Right,
and find something else.
right.
But in some countries, you don't.
And
You
and
know, like the BBC in the UK, to
and that
use an actual first world country,
right.
like you have to pay your TV license, which if you have a screen in your house, doesn't even have to be a TV. If you have a laptop, if you have a phone, if you have
Right.
any kind of screen, you are supposed to pay the TV license. Now, it's not. extremely heavily enforced, but that is the law.
Right.
And you are paying with that your TV license. You are paying for the BBC to exist, right? That is state funded, and you are paying them to feed you propaganda all day.
Right. They
Now,
can.
obviously, you don't have to watch it, but you're paying for it.
Right. And they're going to
But,
feed you the narrative that they want.
right, and you're paying for it against your
Right.
will. We
Right.
don't have that in this country, and that is amazing.
Right.
People, I think a lot of Americans take that for granted.
Right.
That we don't do that.
Right. And it's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow that we are in an age where 90% of what you see is probably not true when it comes from an, important
It's not
information
the government
standpoint.
giving you that information either.
Right.
It's not the government doing it. It's private corporations that are doing it, and
And
that means
I
you have the choice to use your dollar, and instead of paying for cable, you can pay for your someone that you watch on YouTube or D Live. You can give them money instead, a much lesser amount of money, per month. You can give them some money, and it helps them supports them, and helps you. You get the news that you want to get, if you think it's 100% true. If you just want to hear what you want to hear, you have those options.
right.
You have the option to just have propaganda on the other side that you like. You can watch that all day.
Yeah, it's
But
it's
the point is, your dollar is going to where you want it to go, and that's the important thing.
well, it's that's the it's one of those things where it's like the you know people need to be able to access news, and I shouldn't say that 90% of what you see out there is false.
It's
It's
probably
not.
not 90%.
I would say a good portion of it is spun. Like
It's more spin, right, than it is
it's
actual lie.
it's
Yeah,
misleading, right? There's a lot of misleading narrative. It's not
yeah,
just fact for fact for fact. But this is, the most important part is that you be the person that tries to only take what can't be questioned. So, for instance, in this digital day and age, if somebody is saying something in public into a microphone or in something that's being reported on, and it's like this was said publicly, right? This
yeah,
is this was recorded in some way. This has been documented in some way. Well, that's what you take away from it. The words
right,
that a person said, and if you can
right.
find that, if
The raw footage,
right,
whether it
if
be
you
audio or video or both. Yeah,
exactly,
take the raw footage.
you know.
We're running up on time, so let's catch up with the chat, see
Um,
what they're talking about.
Not a lot went on with the chat. Michael Vega talked about going and getting some chicken, and he was told while he was standing outside at his car that he needed to wear a mask. He told her, shut the fuck up and give me my chicken or my $50 back." Ed's
I don't think
Ed's
he said that. I
uh,
don't
in
believe him. I'm calling bullshit.
in speaking about the coronavirus, Ed popped in and said they did what they needed. The economy shrank 35%. People stayed unemployed long enough to vote. Now the vaccine is about to be out. So when the market hits
Yeah,
30K, Biden is on the reins or about to be.
yeah.
Now, see,
It was very suspicious, the timing that suddenly there's a vaccine.
well, and the beauty of it is there's two or three now that have shown 90 plus, 94, 95% efficacy. So
Yep.
we're
And
going to
if
see
Biden
multiple
takes office,
options for that out.
if Biden takes office, he's going to be the one who gets the credit for it.
Now, I don't think we'll have to look into it, or maybe here, homework. The 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 legality of private companies demanding proof that you've been vaccinated for the COVID-19 as opposed to wearing
Yeah,
masks and stuff.
that's going to be a big problem.
Is that going to happen? And
I
if
don't
it
know.
does, is that constitutional?
I don't know. I think there's definitely a constitutional argument for it. That's why it's scary, right? Because it's a private business. They can decide, the the prerequisites, I guess, for coming in, right? Some places have a dress code, right? There's already precedent for that. You can't come in if you're not dressed appropriately. If we decide that you're not dressed appropriately, you can't come in, right? Those places exist. So there's definitely precedent for, prerequisites on entering the business. And the thing is, on principle, I'm for that. Obviously, I'm not for, mandatory vaccine in order to go out and shop. I'm just saying the principle of, a business being able to decide who gets to come in and who doesn't. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one, man. I don't know.
It's a question that is going to have to be answered at some point. That it's
Yeah,
going to come up. It's
for
going to come up. That brings the whole freedom of association into question, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, that's the thing is the principle is there and the principle is solid, right? If a business does not want you to come in unless you show proof that you've been vaccinated, that's their right. And I
Oh
don't
my
like that
God.
at all.
And the responses we had over masks was bad enough,
Yeah,
right?
don't think you're going to see, in some places you'll see that, I think, especially in inner cities, you're going to see, or cities in general, you're going to see that, the mandatory vaccine thing. In more rural areas, probably not. Right? So I think you're going to see a lot of businesses struggle even more than they are now, especially if they implement that.
Right.
If they don't, I think they'll do fine. But if they do, I think they're going to struggle more.
Well, it's a
So who
consideration.
knows?
It's a consideration people need to take into
Yeah,
account now and start,
start wrapping your head around that, guys, for
right.
sure.
Definitely going to be a thing. Michael Vegas says that he really did say that to her. She was being snooty. I was out supporting small businesses and then hounded by some dumb um,
See,
country
that's so
country
weird.
girl. He said it was great chicken though. Black market vaccine papers win.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That's going to happen for sure. You're going to
Right,
see that.
right.
Absolutely. You see fake IDs all the time, right? You're going to absolutely going to see fake vaccine papers for sure. Absolutely, especially right in the beginning when they're all fucked up and they don't, because obviously you're gonna have to get government papers, right? They're gonna be all fucked up, like they're gonna be
Well,
easy to replicate at first, and then of course the technology will catch up and make it harder and harder to replicate. But at first, hell yeah, there's gonna be a thriving market for that.
I just a quick mention before we start rolling out of here. Biden did come out and say that, of course, predicate. He's speaking as the upcoming president, of course, but he said his administration would not, in any way, shape, or form,
Yeah, that's bad.
institute any national lockdown in response to the coronavirus. He said it will not happen from his administration,
Interesting.
right? But now,
Because
that
he's been
doesn't mean
pushing
he
that for a
won't.
while.
Well, that doesn't mean he won't institute a mask ordinance. He
Right.
will not institute a lockdown for the country, though. He is
Right.
not going to do that. Now, he has gone on record as saying that.
That doesn't mean
So,
anything, as we know.
well, I'm just saying. He's gone on record as saying his administration would not institute a national lockdown.
Well,
So
that's good.
it's
I'm
there.
glad.
He said it. So keep that in
Yes,
mind.
thank you, Daddy, for allowing me to go outside of my house. I appreciate it. Thank you, Daddy.
Hey, you know what?
Um,
But do take this away from that we watched. Um, what was the one thing that he said it was important to make sure that the elderly had? A good supply of vitamin D. So
yeah,
just FYI for everybody out there, the best source of vitamin D on the entire planet is the sun.
yeah,
Go outside, soak up some protection from the COVID virus
yeah,
by being in the sun.
yeah.
Just saying, give it a try. I know it's getting wintertime, but the sun still comes out. And
Well,
it's,
in Florida, it does. If you go up north, it
well,
really doesn't.
hey, I grew up in Oklahoma. We'd have some very heavy winters, a lot of snow, but the sun would still come out once the snowstorm passed.
Talking
You
like the
know,
Northeast, though, where it's just like gray for months.
yeah. And that doesn't mean it's warm, but the sun comes out,
Yeah,
right? I mean, it's just,
yeah.
it doesn't mean it's warm. Nothing's melting, but the sun's out.
Right.
But anyway,
Yeah.
as much as you can, do that. Take that
Yeah.
opportunity. He's gone on record saying he has hairy legs. Ed says, but
That's true.
I don't. I
I
don't.
learned about kids rubbing his legs and sitting on his lap or whatever the fucking
Okay,
thing
now
was.
you guys are gonna get gross, and I don't like gross
I didn't,
because
I
it's
didn't get
just
those.
so gross. All right, so anyway, John, can you tell these people how to find us?
I sure can. Yes, down in our description, we've got all of our links to all of our stuff. You can find us on Twitter at GenGapP. You can find our subscribe stars down there.
Gonna be
As soon as this
fixed.
video is over, the link will actually work. So yeah, you can actually use it then. And then we got our Discord server. Did I say Discord already? I don't think so. Discord server. Join our Discord. It's a lot of fun. Cool people in there. Go check it out if you haven't already. And then we've got freedomscoop.com, where we've got all of our stuff over there. And we've got other less important creators like Jay Edgar and Stephen Ignoramus. We've got Already Conservative over there. We've got Wyatt from the Breakdown with Birkenhoff. And the Freckles and Brick show is over there as well. And while you're over there, if you like us a little bit, not enough to give to our subscribe star, but you still like us a little bit, you can buy our t-shirts over there. You can buy our t-shirts and our mugs while you're over on freedomscoop.com. And if you put in the code GenGap at checkout, you can get 15% off your purchase. So it's like even better than you had previously thought. So make sure you go ahead and do that. I think it's a good idea. I recommend it.
All right, sweet. So yeah, do that stuff. And just real quick on Subscribestar, John, we'll talk for a moment afterwards because I pulled it up and I'm looking at something here, and that's what we'll have to address. We're not live yet, so
Okay, gotcha.
so anyway, outside of that, we are going to be back on Wednesday for our regular rousing episode of Shooting the Shit, I believe we call it, don't we, John?
Indeed.
That's what it's going to be. We'll be back at 9:30 on Wednesday for that. And of course, we'll be back again next Friday on Black Friday. And we're going to have a special guest. And that guest would be
Fritzcast.
Fritz.
Yes, Fritz from Fritzcast.
Fritzcast.
He's going to be joining us.
Fritzcast.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's going to be at 8:30 p.m. Both of those times are going to be the Eastern time zone, the one and only true time zone. Everyone else is just, they're posers, John.
Right.
I appreciate everyone that showed up tonight, all the fun chat and talky talk that was going on. Hopefully, we've kept you slightly entertained, better than a masturbating potato, I think the reference was earlier. But outside of that, stay safe out there, folks, and keep your head above water. Don't put up with any bullshit, because there's plenty of it coming at you. Mm-hmm. Lots of it. Look at John. I mean, he's ready to sling bullshit at any moment.
That's right.
All right, we're going to get the hell out of here. John, thanks for stopping by. We'll talk to you soon. Peace out, everybody.
See you guys.
The war will begin.